Hey guys, welcome back. A little bit of a different type of video for you today, but I thought it would be fun to tell you the story about the buck that we were hunting this previous hunting season. And as you can tell from the title and the thumbnail of this video, that it does have a happy ending. And this buck for me was fairly special. So this is the story of Giganto and his favorite apple tree. Now, as everyone that hunts understands, every deer that you harvest is special. Whether that's a big buck, a small buck, or a doe, every deer is special. But this deer for me was very special, and not just because he was a nice buck, more so because of who was along with me as we were hunting this deer, and in particular, my son. And there is so much that went into this hunt from a strategy standpoint, and we can dive into those in detail in separate videos if you guys want to. But in order to make sure that this video doesn't go too long, I'm just going to tell you guys the story of the buck that my son named Giganto and his favorite apple tree. So just like with most years, the hunt for this buck started in late summer when we start to shift our trail cameras to these inventory locations to try to get a good idea as to what bucks do we have in the neighborhood. And just like with most years, some of those bucks that we had passed on the previous hunting season, they survived. And now we're getting pictures of those deer in bachelor groups in late summer. And right away, there was a clear target for the 2023 hunting season. After talking with the neighboring landowners and sharing trail camera pictures, there were a couple other nice bucks in the area, but this 10-point was definitely the oldest and the biggest buck in the neighborhood, which made him #1 on our hit list. If you've watched this channel long enough, you know that we run cell cameras on our property to not only keep the hunting pressure low, but to also help us pattern individual bucks. And this year was no different. Around Labor Day, we went out and put out the cell cameras, and right away, we started getting pictures of the neighborhood bucks, including this buck. And as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, this buck was very special to me. And it's not just because he was a nice buck, it was more so because I was able to experience the entire hunt with my son. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that we run cell cameras on our property. My son, who's 6 years old, he's very aware of what's going on. And every time he would hear my phone vibrate, and he knows the difference between a text message vibration and a cell camera notification vibration, he would ask to see the deer pictures on my phone. And so me wanting to see the deer pictures too, it kind of just became something that we would do. Every time we'd get a picture, we would look at the cell camera notifications and see which deer were walking around. And again, right away, we started getting quite a few pictures of this buck on our property. And the pictures of this buck, they started to get so frequent that my son and I had a little routine before we went to bed. And a lot of it probably had to do with the fact that my son didn't want to go to bed yet, and he knew how to game his dad into looking at trail camera pictures that, every night before bed, he would say, "Hey, Dad, can we look at the trail camera pictures and see if that buck is moving by?" And it came to the point where we saw him so many times that my son named the deer. Now, we normally don't name our bucks. In fact, I think this is the only buck that we've ever had that had a name, but he named the buck Giganto. And Giganto, just like with a lot of older bucks, as we pushed into the hunting season, he had a fairly regular pattern. We were only getting pictures of this buck from one trail camera. It was on an apple tree that was right on the edge of a soybean field. So as this deer got up from bed, after last light, he would come and hit this apple tree before moving on to the destination food source. So again, every night while putting my son to bed, he would ask me if we can check the cameras to see if Giganto is at his favorite apple tree. And a lot of nights he was. Now, the only problem with Giganto, just like with any old buck, is that he wouldn't leave the security of his bedroom until well after last light. And again, just like with any old buck early on in the hunting season, he would get back to bed well before daylight. And we knew this because his pattern in the morning was fairly regular, just like it was in the evening. And he would hit that same spot before going back to bed. So every morning before going back to bed, he would hit that apple tree, get a couple bites to eat, hit that mock scrape, and then head back to bed. And that's really how it went for a while, for a little over a month. Most of September, a good portion of October, my son and I, we just watched Giganto at his favorite apple tree through those cell cameras. We had a really good idea as to where that deer was bedded. We knew where that deer wanted to go in the evening. Unfortunately, he wasn't moving at all during daylight. Fast forward to October 18th. I wasn't hunting that day. I think it was around 75 degrees outside. This was just a regular day in the fall. We had eaten dinner and everyone went outside to run around, burn off some energy. And I got a notification from one of the cell cameras. And I looked at it and it was that apple tree. And so I looked at it and it was the farmer cutting his beans. And I just thought to myself, no way. You know, what were the chances that the farmer was going to cut his soybeans on Wednesday, 2 days before a cold front's going to move through, 2 days before the weekend on the 20th, and that's normally when these older bucks in our area start to move a little bit more during daylight. I thought that was going to be one of the first chances that I was going to get at this deer, you know, Friday the 20th or Saturday the 21st. But now that these beans are cut, you know, that might impact his pattern because he always hit that apple tree before heading out into those soybeans. And if the soybeans are gone, that's a fairly significant change that could impact or change his pattern that up until this point was really predictable. So after getting the picture of the neighbor cutting his beans, you know, I think it was around 5 or 5:30, you know, I was fairly disappointed, you know, just thinking that the pattern of the deer that I was targeting, you know, is going to potentially change. However, that evening, I think it was around 6:45, 6:50, 7 o'clock, somewhere around in there, you know, well before last light, I got another notification on my cell phone. It was from the apple tree. I opened it up and there he was. He was standing in daylight 20 yards from my stand. And I just thought to myself, no way. Today is the day that Giganto steps out in daylight. 75 degrees, the neighbor had just finished cutting the field and this deer steps out in daylight. But the 18th was different than any other night up until that point. And the picture and the video from that night ended up getting that deer killed a few days later. Up until the 18th, any other time that deer would come to that apple tree, he would show up, eat a couple apples, and head to the soybean field. However, on the 18th, he started making scrapes, which tells me that this buck is starting to feel that pre-rut itch. He's gonna start getting up a little earlier in the evening to start hitting and working these scrapes. As soon as I saw him make that scrape in daylight, I immediately went and checked the weather to see when the next cold front was gonna move through. And it was gonna move through the next day on Thursday, rain through Friday. The rain was supposed to stop early Friday afternoon. So I knew that I needed to be in my stand Friday afternoon because there was a good chance that he was gonna come out Friday evening. So fast forward to Friday, October 20th, I made sure to get out of work a little bit early, drove up to our property, was driving in the rain. The rain did stop while I was driving up, which made me a little bit nervous, but you know, I got my stuff together, got everything on as fast as I could, and I think I was sitting in my stand a little after 5 o'clock. And I think on the 20th, last light was around 7:20, so you know, I had a pretty easy sit. It was a little over 2 hours. And the sit itself, you know, that was a pretty normal sit. You know, it was my first time pushing into the property. I think it was my 4th hunt of the season, and the previous 3 hunts were more observational sits. So Friday, October 20th, that was the first time that we pushed in to hunt a decent stand location. And the hunt that night, it was a fairly typical sit. You know, I had does come out and feed in front of me for a little while. I'd go back in, come back out and feed, go back in, and it wasn't until about 6:30 that I thought I heard something walking around in the area that I had a pretty good idea on where this deer was bedded. And it sounded like a deer, it sounded like a single deer, but I didn't really want to turn around and look too much because I didn't want to give my position away. You know, it could have been a squirrel, I guess, but it sounded like an individual deer. But I kind of waited a while, waited 15, 20 minutes, and nothing ever came from that. I kind of didn't hear anything anymore. And then the does kind of cleared out. It was just me sitting there, and I was kind of starting to think about an exit strategy at this point because I didn't want to have a deer or that deer come out while I was there and then sit there for a long time and then I couldn't get out. So I was starting to kind of think about an exit strategy, and it was a little after 7 o'clock and an individual deer pops out. And I was like, holy cow, that's a huge deer. Like, I couldn't really see antlers. I knew it was a buck because I could see antlers, but his antlers were obstructed from a tree branch and he's standing in the field. But I knew that there was a really good chance that this was Giganto on his way to his favorite apple tree. So I just picked a lane that he had to walk through on his way, and as soon as he stepped out, I saw it was him. I stopped him in that lane, put it right behind the front shoulder, let it go. I saw the arrow hit. He kind of tore off into the soybean field, and then I lost sight of him. The branches that were kind of extending into that field, I'm kind of back off the field a little bit. I just kind of lost sight of him as he went under those branches. But the farmer did leave a couple strips of soybeans kind of in the middle, and I could hear him kind of crashing through those soybeans. And I heard him crash for a couple seconds, and I didn't hear anything anymore. So he either dumped in those soybeans, or he made it through the other side, and then I just couldn't hear him crashing anymore. So I just kind of waited for it to get dark. I climbed out of my stand, kind of went to where I saw him last under the branches there, and I saw blood, looked like pretty good blood. And so then I just backed out. And as I was walking back to our cabin, once I thought I was a safe enough distance away to make a phone call, my first call was to my son. And I just told him that I just shot Giganto when he was walking to his favorite apple tree, and I asked him if he wanted to track the deer, and if he wanted to track him tonight, or if he wanted to wait until the next morning to track. And he said that he wanted to track him tonight. So I drove back, picked up my son. We headed right back up to the property, grabbed the flashlights, and went right out to the woods to go track Giganto. And that's where the footage is going to pick up from here. But again, this deer for me, it was a really special deer, not only because is it a nice buck, but because I got to experience the entire hunt with my son. And for those of you guys that have been following this channel for a while know, my kids are always out there helping me with whatever habitat improvement we're working on. And even more so my son. Over the past several years, he's always wanted to go out and help me with whatever we were doing, whether that's clearing out bedding areas, working on mock scrapes, planting food plots, clearing out new deer trails. He has always been right by my side, helping me with the habitat improvements on our property. So as a dad, that just really meant a lot to have my son with me for the entire hunt from start to finish. Now, he wasn't in the stand with me when I took the shot, but outside of that, he was with me for the entire journey, for the entire hunt for Giganto. So, this buck for me was a really special one. Not only was he a nice buck, but I was able to experience the entire thing with my son. And that's really what it's all about, is sharing these experiences with friends and family, those that you care about. So hopefully, you guys enjoyed the story for Giganto and his favorite apple tree, and hopefully there's a lot more of these to come in the future.
The trail's right here. First. Blake, look. Right here, look, I found blood. Yeah. Right here. See it? Blood. So let's keep going. Look, there's blood right here. There's blood right here. There's blood right here.
Yeah, I'll show you.
There's blood right there too, yeah. We gotta keep finding blood. Okay, you go first. You're better at finding than me. There's more right there. You see any blood yet? Blood?
This one.
Yep, you're right. You're right. Good eyes. Good eyes, Blake. Here it is right here. Yeah, right here.
Blood.
Where? Oh, yep. Oh, blood up here. We got blood up here on this one. And blood right here. Blood right here. I got blood right here. Blood right here. That's a lot of blood. That's a lot of blood, right?
Yeah.
All right, keep going. See if you can find some more blood. I don't know. They can sometimes run a long ways. Got more blood. Got more blood. More blood right there. Yep, good eyes, good eyes. I got some right here. Yeah, Yeah, good eyes, good eyes. Anything else? Oh, I got some right here. Got some right here. See it? I got some more right here. Blake, hold on a second. Let's walk over there.
Why?
I think I see a body. I think I see a white belly.
Oh yeah, that's it here.
You think it is?
No, it is.
Okay, let's go. You walk first. I'm right behind you. Oh yeah, look at that. Blood. Right there. All right, keep going. I got you, bud.
Where's he?
Go straight that way.
That's him, all right.
All right, let's go see him. Holy smokes, dude. Holy cow, Blake. Are you serious? Blake, are you serious? Holy cow. Blake, look at the size of that deer.
Look at all that blood.
I know. Holy cow. Are you kidding me? Blake, look at the size of that deer.
I know. The size.
Wow.
That's blood on him.
Wow, he's huge.